I'm hoping that we'll get to see more world building, because that's another part with Dune Part 2 that we really didn't get. We didn't get any of the Spacing Guild. And obviously, famously, through for Howard's part, his scenes were cut. So there's just so many things. And from the outset, Dune Prophecy is going to be a very Bene Gesserit focused show, but I hope that there's more. I'm actually waiting to get more significant information about this show, because it just seems that they're just rolling with the log line of we're following two Harkonnen sisters as they establish the famous sect of the Bene Gesserit. And I'm just waiting for an actual story, for an actual, like, okay, what's the plot though? And the only tidbits that we've gotten are just set photos of the actors. So I just saw a new picture of Mark Strong or a new picture of Travis Fimmell's Desmond Hart or something. And that's the only new information that's coming out about that series. So I don't know, should I be worried about that? But that is my hope. I share that same hope that they will expand the world and showcase these other factions, because I don't feel like you can really get the full breadth of the Bene Gesserit's power and influence without the other factions present and playing a factor in the socio-political landscape. That ultimately is my hope, but I haven't seen a whole lot of information about it, about those other things, but I don't know. We'll see. I hold out hope until I learn more. The lack of the Spacing Guild was a gaping hole in the films, but there's only so much screen time. It's a tough balance. Yes, I mean, and of course I have my issues. There was a lot of things that I did really like. I loved Austin Butler's Feyd-Rautha. I thought the whole Giedi Prime sequence was really well done. And honestly, Leia Seydoux's Bene Gesserit, Lady Margot, that was like how the Bene Gesserit are, how the Bene Gesserit work. I thought Leia Seydoux really showcased that. Like, Lady Margot was really the one showcasing how the Bene Gesserit manipulate the powers that be. And a great depiction, I think, of that. Now, Rebecca Ferguson, on the other hand, Lady Jessica, was just out and out using the voice in front of everybody like it's nothing. That's not what they do. There's like this whole part in the book where she lets Thufir Hawat know. She demonstrates the voice, and he gets like the full breadth of what that means, that you can command someone, control them by a voice command, and he gets it. Like, he gets the full power that the Bene Gesserit hold, and it was such a dramatic moment. Yeah, they don't let their powers, the full breadth of their powers, they don't let anyone know that. Otherwise, they'd be perceived as a threat, and it would jeopardize their plans for humanity. So yeah, I thought the Lady Margot depiction was a much more accurate depiction of how the Bene Gesserit operate. And when every time we cut to Lady Jessica and she's just doing the voice all the time, I'm like, that's not what they do, and no one questions it. No one questions that you're just commanding people. And Timothée Chalamet's Paul Atreides was really good. Sadly, it was just a pretty visual and shallow storyline that cut the intriguing political drama that was always in the background. And it's unfortunate. Honestly, I think the ideal format is a TV series, a longer form, premium television. But, you know, it is what it is. And it's not like there hasn't been other changes. Like, even the Dune miniseries took some creative liberties, definitely. I think in regards to Princess Irulan's character, there was a lot of changes there. Visually, it's very scaled down. They had a very paltry budget, but the story was good. The characters are very strong. And obviously, it's my favorite depictions of Lady Jessica and Chani. I liked Gurney Halleck in that too. And I think even the Paul Atreides depiction was good. But Duke Leto I did not like in the Dune miniseries. And even David Lynch, the adaptation, there's some things I have a lot of problems with when it comes to the story and depiction of Paul Atreides. As far as his arc goes, I thought Kyle MacLachlan did a great job of acting, but as far as the faithfulness to his story, it was out there. So they all have their little idiosyncrasies, the little problems that I have, and they also have things that I really enjoy. So maybe like all together, we actually have a faithful adaptation when they're all taking them all into consideration. I think overall, though, it's a very entertaining film, and I think that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to make Dune accessible at the end of the day. And I just hope too that it inspired many people to read Frank Herbert's books. And I think it did. So I can't help but be happy about that. And same thing that happened with David Lynch's film. You know, a lot of people went in not knowing anything about Dune and ended up diving into the books. So very happy about that. That's what the true source material is, the true story of Dune. So if people are inspired to learn more about it, the books are always there and always superior when it comes to story. The strongest performances were Chalamet's Paul and Austin Butler's Phaedratha, definitely. And hopefully they'll get some recognition. I don't know, there was some Oscar predictions going around. Was it Variety's Oscar predictions? And there wasn't any performance nominations or even Denis Villeneuve's Best Director. That wasn't even on there. So are you really gonna snub him again? I did not originally like Chalamet, but he was incredible. Yeah, I mean, he had some amazing scenes, like the one where he's getting the Fremen, the underground scene, and he's fully becomes the Mahdi. Dune Part 2 nerfed my beloved Sardaukar. That hit my heart and soul. Yeah, I did a video on that, whether or not the Sardaukar were nerfed, and Dune Part 1, yeah, really upped the ante. It showcased why they have such a feared reputation. But obviously, yeah, in Dune Part 2, everything happens so quickly. But the book is kind of like that. It does, well, and honestly, when it comes to the battle itself, it just kind of skips over a lot of things. Basically, the shield wall explodes and the battle goes on, and then we're in the aftermath of the battle, and Paul's just taking it all in. So I think they skip over a lot of that. We don't even know what happened for sure to the beast. So it's interesting, Frank Herbert's writing style, and obviously very intentional to kind of leave those graphic details of the battle out and focus on what it meant, what the impact of it meant. Yeah, it's very interesting in how to adapt that. And I think they did okay. Honestly, the Fremen I think they needed to emphasize more about Paul's training with the Fremen in the Weirding Way, because that's what really made them an unstoppable force. And yeah, the Sardaukar were no match. They were no match for the Fremen. So it's accurate in that way, but I can see how it would make for very unsatisfying for an action film like this, or war epic. The sound weapon in Lynch's one was a bit wank. Yeah, the weirding modules. I didn't like that. No, he notoriously didn't want Kung Fu in the sand dunes. So he added that, and I think he wanted to capitalize too on Star Wars space opera in that regards. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that. So he had his own changes that he made. The Duniverse is weird, and that weirdness was quite absent. Dune Messiah, Gola, Face Dancer, Guild Navigator, etc. This is why I'm worried when it comes to the weirdness, because if he's already left out the Spacing Guild, well, how are you going to reintroduce them or introduce them more accurately in Dune Messiah? You can't leave them out, and you have to like introduce them in a way that is organic, that feels natural to the story already in the time that we find ourselves in. And also you're going to have to introduce the Bene Tleilax, which are even weirder, I would say. You have Bijaz, another weird one. I hope he embraces the weird, man, because that's Dune. That's what makes Dune so special. Apologies to Christopher Walken, but Charles Dance should have been the Emperor. Yeah, I did not like Christopher Walken's performance. He was just Christopher Walken. That was another casting that felt like it was just done for publicity, maybe, just for general audience attention. The sci-fi version of Dune, most of the budget went to William Hurt casting. The showrunner and the director wanted a bigger show, not enough time. And that's a shame, because William Hurt was the weakest performance. He really seemed like he was phoning it in. I mean, I like William Hurt, and I thought some scenes were okay, but overall, he wasn't working for me. So Oscar Isaac is still my favorite Duke Leto. That's the character. That's who I envisioned, when I read the books. So again, there's just things that, well, and I like Lady Jessica better. She's a superior one. So it's, yeah, there's a bunch of those things. Like it for this one, but I don't like it in that. I don't like the costumes in the miniseries, but the story is really more faithful. Gotta give it props for that. So they all have their pros and cons. As I was saying before, all together they make a decent adaptation. And of course, David Lynch's, he has the superior higher degrees. That was one thing I was very sorely missing in Dune Part 1. You have David Dastmalchian. I felt like he was so wasted. Those darn hats. I know, is it the meme that the Sardaukar, they're the Chef Boyardee? Yeah, talk about nerf in the Sardaukar. That was the costumes got better in the Children of Dune series. I think they still had a few hats, but not as many.